This is a 2020 Honda Civic Si, and it happens to be my 2020 Honda Civic Si. This compact sports sedan won a Car and Driver 10 Best Award and a spot on their Editor's Choice list, and powered by a 205 horsepower turbocharged four-cylinder that is only available with a manual transmission. We're going to drive this car, and I'll show you some of its quirks and features, and then I'm going to give it a... Wait, who's Doug? Doesn't somebody already do this? So about a month ago, we seriously started considering trading in our old 2015 Civic for the new 2020 Civic Si. There won't be a 2021 Si model, so we thought it would be our last opportunity to get one. After doing the online build-a-car thing on Honda's website, we found that the only dealership that had one was Honda of Covington, which is about 40 miles from home. So I made an appointment. On Tuesday, December 1st, I drove up to Covington and met with Matt, the salesman. We took the car for a test drive while Matt pointed out all the car's quirks and features, and I was impressed. So we went back to the showroom to discuss the details of the sale. Shrewd negotiator that I am, I told him that I wanted them to take my 2015 Civic base model as a trade-in, and I would write a check for exactly $12,000 and drive away in my new Civic Si. Matt filled out an offer sheet, asked me to sign it, and took it off into the sales manager's office. I could see him talking through the glass, and then the sales manager motioned for another couple of salesmen to come in, and soon he had the entire sales staff in his office. Obviously, he needed to get everyone's opinion and advice on how to handle this situation. As he held up my offer for all of them to see, they all broke into laughter and then dispersed into the coffee room. Matt came back with a counteroffer with a higher price. A much, much higher price. Needless to say, an hour later I was driving home in my new Civic Si, 5 years of my savings gone, but with a new top-of-the-line Honda that will hopefully last me at least 10 years. Which is how long it'll probably take me to save up to buy another one. So we're going to take a look at some of the features of this car, some of which have become common in new cars, but many of which I've never had in any of the cars that I've owned in the past. And that number of cars is now over 30. Granted, most of these cars weren't made this century, and prior to this when the newest car I've owned is now 5 years old. A lot's happened in that 5 years with car technology. Looking at the interior, the Civic seems to have a lot more room than our old 2015 Coupe, something you wouldn't expect of a sport model. And unlike our old Civic, the back seat is completely accessible and actually has some leg room with the driver's seat set the way I drive it. The fuel filler doesn't have a cap, just a spring-loaded flap that seals the tank. The fuel filler door locks when the car doors are locked. On the interior, we have this center console, which is mostly just a big bin with an armrest. But there's a sliding tray, probably good for loose change, and then a fixed change tray at the back. The cup holder slides forward for normal use, but slides back to get it out of the way if necessary. Then there's a deep cup holder for that gigantic cup of coffee for those long trips. A removable partition opens up the bottom part of the bin for storage of larger items if you don't need to have the gigantic cup of coffee. Additionally, the cup holder can be completely removed for more storage capacity or for cleaning. On the driver's door is a button to remotely open the trunk, one of 3 ways to open the trunk. And we have quite a large trunk. Under the floor of the trunk is a styrofoam tray with an air pump and a funnel for adding fuel from a can. And the rest of the space can be used for carrying other tools and things you don't want to be just bouncing around in the trunk loose. As is becoming more common today, there's no jack or spare tire included, and I guess with the type of wheels and tires on this car, that's a good thing. The owner's manual has giant warnings with flashing text. Okay, maybe not flashing in a printed owner's manual, but they tell you absolutely to not put a differently sized spare in the front of this car because it'll damage the differential. The steering wheel has lots of built-in controls which are not unlike what we had in the 2015 Civic, but with more buttons and options. On the left is a D-pad type controller that navigates you through the various menus of the instrument display, and we'll go over those shortly. On the right there are the cruise control and lane keep assistance buttons. Behind that's a standard stock for the windshield wipers. This one has variable intermittent wiper controls, and they supposedly work completely automatically, but I haven't driven in the rain to find out. The headlights are fully automatic, including the high beams, but there's a control to manually turn them on or off as well. A separate ring controls the fog lights. Some buttons over here turn off the stability control and road departure and collision mitigation systems way off here to the left, so you're likely to never touch them. By the way, the entire dashboard has this carbon fiber accent like this. On the door we have the standard window and mirror controls and lock buttons. Now this is something I've only experienced in rental cars before, and it's a push button starter. To start the engine, just push the clutch and then the button, provided the parking brake is set. Otherwise you have to push the clutch and the brake and then the button. If you don't get your feet in sync with the button, the car will refuse to start and give you a message on the instrument display. Over here we have the infotainment system, which includes the radio, climate controls, and Apple or Android smartphone integration. The smartphone integration allows you to pull up your navigation apps and music apps right on the display. You can also use it to make calls either by dialing a number or by selecting someone to call from your contacts list. Additionally, it responds to voice commands through Siri or whatever the equivalent is for Android. When tuning in over-the-air radio, you can tune manually or get a list of stations that the radio can pick up. This receiver is HD digital radio equipped, so you can get the alternate programming on stations that offer it. This car also has a Sirius XM receiver, and when you buy the car you get a free 3-month subscription. Then we have the climate controls, which are pretty much automatic. Just turn the knobs to set the temperature to whatever you want and forget about it. But if you hit the climate button, you can get fully manual controls of the HVAC system. Dual zone climate controls allow the passenger to get a different temperature than the driver. Each of the front seats is equipped with a 3-level seat warmer, although we'll probably never use those in our subtropical climate. On the instrument display, the temperature gauge and fuel gauge and tachometer and speedometer are always displayed, but the additional information displayed can be changed using the buttons on the steering wheel. These include instant fuel economy as well as average fuel economy, the maintenance schedule. You can show what's playing on the radio here, some sort of control on your smartphone, a switch to go between metric and imperial units, a trip computer showing average speed and elapsed time. This is set to reset every time the fuel tank gets filled. These gauges show the throttle position and brake pressure, and there's a turbo gauge. Not doing anything since we're just idling. I have no idea what this does, but I think the little lights come on based on your speed. This is a G sensor that I've never activated while driving, so I'm not sure how well it works. And finally, there's a stopwatch for clocking your 0 to 60 time. To the upper right is the adaptive cruise control and lane keep assistance system lights, doing nothing while the car sits idle. But this car has the capability of slowing down when you come up on someone going slower than you. It'll also steer itself if this system is on, as long as you're going fast enough and there are sufficient stripes on the highway for the car to follow. The Civic Si is only available with the 6-speed manual transmissions. I've owned cars with 3, 4, and 5-speed stick shifts, but this is my first 6-speed. Instead of having a mechanical handbrake, this one has a switch as well as a brake hold function for when you're sitting in traffic or if you need to get started on a steep uphill climb. When the Sport Mode button is turned on, and I quote, "The driver can enjoy enhanced engine response and greater stability and handling." On the outside of the car, we have 18-inch alloy wheels with low-profile tires. This central rear port houses the dual exhaust that most Hondas and most 4-cylinders don't have. Under this complicated array of hoses and pipes is the 2.0-liter turbocharged engine. I can see that I won't be doing any work under the hood besides oil changes and maybe a battery replacement. The fluid fillers are easy enough to see and get to, but that's going to be it for me. Finally, the keyless entry, or should I say keyless everything. This is the first time I've pressed a button on the remote, but there's a neat trick you can do with it that isn't available in every car. As far as locking and unlocking the car, all you have to do is walk up to it with the keyless entry remote somewhere on your person, and it senses your presence, and just putting your hand on the door handle unlocks the doors. To lock it back up, you can either push the lock button on the inside of the door, or the button on the outside of the door, or just walk away and it'll lock as soon as you get about 10 feet away. Everything gets confirmed with a beep. Now, driving this car feels very similar to driving our old 2015 Civic when you're just taking it easy on city streets. The seats hug you back a little bit more, the controls are slightly different, the short throw shifter feels a lot different, but everyday handling is about the same. There are a lot of bells and whistles on this car that'll probably get very little use. As long as I can set up the music I want with the press of a button and pull up my maps on the screen, I'll be happy. I really don't care to see the throttle position or even the turbo boost. But the big difference is when you get on the highway and need to get out of the way of something, which the old base model 2015 Civic was not good at doing. But I think this one's a keeper. The extra room in the 4-door will make it a lot better for the long road trips, and we'll soon be equipping it with camera mounts for more road trip videos. So that's our tour of the 2020 Honda Civic Si Sedan. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help support our channel, please check out our merchandise at 504roadtrips.spreadshirt.com, or just hit the applause button to make a donation for our future road trip videos. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, post a comment, subscribe, share and follow us on social media, and join us for our next 504 road trip.